Hello friends, I am Jayarani working as lecturer in EC Department of Government Polytechnic College, Trichy, Tamil Nadu. In this learning dialogue video, I am going to talk about some modulation techniques in communication system. Before that, we will go through the content of this learning dialogue video. The content of this video is basic communication system, what is modulation, need for modulation, analog modulation techniques, digital modulation techniques. First we will see about the communication system. In our daily life, we communicate with many people and use the entertainment media like television, radio, internet, etc. Communication is nothing but the process of exchanging or passing information from person to another. The basic electronic communication system consists of transmitter, receiver and communication channel. The information source may be a source of audio, video or any kind of data. A transmitter is a group of electronic circuits designed to convert the information into a signal for transmission over a given communication medium. A receiver is a group of electronic circuits designed to convert the signal back to the original information. The communication channel is a medium which is designed to transmit the electronic signal from one place to another. The noise is an unwanted signal which interferes with the original message signal and corrupts the parameter of the message signal. It is quite random or unpredictable. For example, his sound in a radio receiver or a buzz or flicker of a TV receiver. So, this is about the basic communication system. Next, we will see what is modulation. Modulation is the process of changing the characteristics of the carrier signal in accordance with the amplitude of the message signal. A message carrying signal has to get transmitted over a distance to establish a reliable communication. A high frequency signal can travel up to a longer distance without getting affected by external disturbances. So, we take the help of such high frequency signal, which is called as carrier signal, to transmit our message. Such a process is simply called a modulation. A modulation is the process of changing the parameter of a carrier signal in accordance with the instantaneous values of modulating signals. And next one is a reflections part question. So, why is the information or the message signal cannot be transmitted without modulation? So, think of that, why the modulation is necessary. Modulation is needed because of the following reasons. First one is no signal mixing occurs. Using modulation, any number of signal can be transmitted over the communication channel without mixing, because we are using different types of carrier signals. Next one is antenna size gets reduced. The height of the antenna, which is inversely proportional to the frequency of the transmitted signal, is reduced when the transmitted signal frequency is increased. And next one is communication range increases. Compared to low frequency signals, high frequency signals can travel for long distance without any disturbances. And next one is multiplexing of signals. Multiplexing is a technique of combining signals, many signals into one signal through a single medium. Next one is adjustment in bandwidth is allowed using modulation techniques. And finally, the reception quality is improved when the signal is modulated. Because of these reasons, the signal is get modulated before it is transmitted through the communication medium. Next, we will see the different types of modulation techniques used in communication system. The modulation process is classified into two types, analog modulation and digital modulation. In analog modulation, it is classified into amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, phase modulation, and the digital modulation technique is classified into amplitude shift keying, frequency shift keying, and phase shift keying. Next, we will see each of these types. Analog modulation. Modulation process involves three types of signals called carrier signal, message or information signal, also known as modulating signal, and modulated signal. The carrier signal is a high frequency signal which is used to carry the information signal or message signal. The information or message signal is a low frequency signal which is actually transmitted through the communication medium. And modulated signal is a combination of carrier and information signal. That is, the information signal is superimposed on the carrier signal, which is called the modulated signal. In analog modulation, an analog signal is used as a carrier signal that modulates the message signals or data signal. Next, this is the general function of a sinusoidal wave. So, sinusoidal wave has three parameters known as amplitude, frequency, and phase. The three parameters can be varied in accordance with the three parameters can be used to change some characteristics of the carrier signal. Based on that, they are classified into amplitude modulation, frequency modulation, and phase modulation. The frequency and phase modulations are combined and known as angle modulation. Next one is amplitude modulation. In amplitude modulation, the carrier signal varies, the amplitude of the carrier signal varies in accordance with the message signal, keeping other parameters like phase and frequency remain constant. Amplitude modulation was the earliest modulation technique used to transmit voice or radio. This type of modulation requires more power and greater bandwidth. Filtering is difficult in this. Next, we will see the waveform of amplitude modulated signal. This is the waveform of amplitude modulated signal. The first one is the message signal, which is a low frequency signal. The second one is the carrier signal, which is a high frequency signal. And third one is a amplitude modulated signal. That is, the message signal is superimposed on the carrier signal, which results a signal whose envelope follows the message signal. And this is the AM signal. The spectrum of AM signal consists of three types of frequency components. They are known as carrier frequency, lower sideband frequency, and upper sideband frequency. Lower sideband is the difference of carrier and message signal frequency, and upper sideband frequency is sum of message signal frequency and carrier frequency. Next one is frequency modulation. In this type of modulation, the frequency of the carrier signal varies in accordance with the message signal amplitude, and other parameters like amplitude and phase remain constant. Frequency modulation is commonly used for broadcasting music and speech, magnetic tape recording systems, two-way radio systems, and video transmission systems. When noise occurs naturally in radio systems, frequency modulation with sufficient bandwidth provides an advantage in cancelling the noise. This is the waveform of a frequency modulated signal. In this, the FM signal frequency increases when the amplitude of the message signal increases, and it is decreased when the message signal frequency is decreasing. Next one is phase modulation. In this type of modulation, the phase of the carrier signal varies in accordance with the message signal. When the phase of the signal is changed, then it affects the frequency. So for this reason, this modulation is also comes under the frequency modulation. Generally, phase modulation is used for transmitting waves. It is an essential part of many digital transmission coding schemes that underlie a wide range of technologies like GSM, Wi-Fi, and satellite television. This type of modulation is used for signal generation in all synthesizers such as Yamaha DX7 to implement FM synthesis. Here is the waveform of phase modulated signal. In this, whenever the frequency amplitude of the message signal increases, the phase gets changed. So the phase of the carrier signal is changed in accordance with the amplitude changes of the message signal. This picture shows the combination of three analog modulated waveforms: amplitude modulated signal, frequency modulated signal, and phase modulated signal. Next, we will see the applications of these three modulation techniques. The AM signal is used in computer modems, VHF aircraft radio, and in portable two-way radio. FM modulation technique is used in radar, radio, and telemetry. And phase modulated signal, it is an essential part of many digital communication coding schemes. Next is digital modulation techniques. In digital modulation, the carrier wave is switched on and off to create pulses such that signal is modulated. Similar to the analog, in this system, the type of digital modulation is decided by the variation of carrier wave parameters like amplitude, phase, and frequency. According to this, they are classified into three: amplitude shift keying, phase shift keying, and frequency shift keying methods. Before going to this, we have a reflections part question. Just think about, why do we go for digital modulation techniques? The answer is, digital modulation techniques have number of advantages compared to analog modulation techniques. The main advantages of digital modulation over analog modulation include available bandwidth, high noise immunity, high data security, etc. As we use the digital signals, the bandwidth is more and the noise can be easily removed from these digital modulated signals, As we use the digital signals, the security is easily embedded with the transmitter signal. Amplitude shift keying is one of the digital modulation techniques in which the carrier wave changes based on the message signal or on the baseband signal, which is in digital form. In this, the amplitude of the carrier signal is shifted between two values, that is either 0 or 1. This is sensitive to noise and used for low band requirements only. Next one is frequency shift keying. In this method, the frequency of the carrier signal is switched between two different frequencies, that is one for 0 and the another frequency for representing 1, and it needs larger bandwidth. And the third one is phase shift keying method. In this, the phase of the carrier signal is shifted between two angle values which represents 0 and 1, and it is less sensitive to noise, and this is most frequently used technique. Next, this is the waveform which shows the three type of digital modulation techniques. The first one is the ASK signal, in which 1 is represented by some high value of amplitude and 0 is represented by 0 amplitude. And second one is FSK. In this, 1 is represented with some high frequency signal and 0 is represented by some low frequency signal. And third one is phase shift keying signal, in which 1 is represented by 0 phase shift and 0 is represented by 180-degree phase shift. So, these are the waveforms of different digital modulation techniques. So, in this learning dialogue, we had an introduction about various types of modulation techniques used in communication system. Thank you.